First of all, wondered whether I have anything to offer anyway, where a leadership discussion is happening. But he insisted and said I could come and say a thing or two. So I will not even read a speech. I will speak very candidly from my heart. First of all, for the organizers of this meeting, thank you very much. Conversations on leadership is something that we need to have, not just in our country, but across the continent. I thank the Lord that I have had an opportunity in the last 7 years to serve my country in the position of a cabinet secretary. During the 7 years, I've also had an opportunity to learn a lot about our country. So I will not even spoke to me about coming here. First of all, wondered whether I have anything to offer anyway, where a leadership discussion is happening. But he insisted and said I could come and say a thing or two. So I will not even read a speech. I will speak very candidly from my heart. First of all, for the organizers of this meeting, thank you very much. Conversations on leadership is something that we need to have, not just in our country, but across the continent. I thank the Lord that I have had an opportunity in the last 7 years to serve my country in the position of a cabinet secretary. During the 7 years, I've also had an opportunity to learn a lot about our country, to work with fellow Kenyans and face tough times and tough decisions. And so I begin by saying this, right from Chinua Achebe, who was quoted here by Joshua Igara, to J.C. Maxwell, to as many authors as you like to bring in. The fact of life is this: human society, in whatever organization, whether it's in small groups, as families, or as society, or as a country, or as a region, we rise and fall depending on the kind of leadership we have. And therefore, for us, not just as Kenyans, but as Africans, this is a good time to talk about leadership. At the beginning of this decade, when in my previous life in the academy, we used to debate a lot, President Thabo Mbeki of South Africa came up with the African Renaissance and said, Africa is now being reborn, and Africa is facing new challenges and going to break new grounds. And everywhere, even international media began to scream that this is Africa's decade. And it was Africa's decade because we have probably the largest conglomeration of talent in the numbers of our young people, huge deposits of resources, and we are endowed in more ways than one and have the capacity to succeed. But unfortunately, I think, and I asked Joshua whether I could speak candidly. He said, yes, I can. Unfortunately, I think we have not effectively addressed the challenges of leadership we face in our continent, in our countries, and in our communities. And if there's anything I've learned the last 7 years I've been in government, is that we could do a lot more than we are doing if we actually addressed some of the challenges we have in leadership. We have very serious weaknesses in our leadership. Sometimes in our environment or even in our countries, I honestly think we spend too much time on politics, more time than we should. And this hurts the potential that we have to do great things. I do not know who cast us, but I don't know why we sleep and wake up thinking about things that could not move us to the next level, like belongings, where we come from, who we are. And half the time we are lost in debates on pettiness, and we lose sight of the big things that we need to do that could unlock our potential and cause us to succeed. So I will share just about 5 lessons I've learned in the last 7 years as a minister. One, to succeed as leaders, we need to master enough courage. One of my favorite books in scripture is the book of Joshua. And 11 times or more, because that's from the version of the Bible that I read, the Lord kept telling Joshua, be courageous, do not be afraid. Surely God himself would not tell a human being not to be afraid if he didn't think you can actually be afraid. Because you can be afraid. 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to share with you practical real experiences. About 2 weeks ago, for the Kenyans in the room, I went to Mombasa. I decided on that Sunday morning with my team in the security sector to spend time to walk through Kisauni, from end to end of Kisauni. I met huge numbers of young Kenyans. 9 out of 10 people I met that morning, I swear, are below the age of 30. And about 6 out of those 10 people could not account for themselves because they are totally dazed, affected by the amount of drugs they have consumed. And as we tried to even have conversations, it was impossible to have a conversation with them. In fact, you have to stand very carefully or else they can even fall on you. And you can see in the lives of those people the effect of the weaknesses we've had in managing ourselves and how, because of our craze and worship for money, we have betrayed our own people in terms of protecting them against drug traffickers and drug dealers. And we actually stare the reality of losing almost a generation in that part of the country. And that is because of leadership. To confront challenges like those, you need courage, the conviction to contest convention. When I came into government, the most common thing you hear in government is when you ask people, why can't we do this? The most common answer is, that is how we have always done it. We don't want to do it differently because this is the way we have always done it. And yet, that way we have always done it has not worked for us. Whether it is setting exams and selling them and rigging them and cooking up grades that do not exist, people tell you that's how we have always done it. When you ask a very simple question, why do we mark exams and complete the marking by December, and then wait to release the results in March? They tell you that's how we have always done it. Because in between here, we have 3 months to cook results, to interfere with the results and do what needs to be done. We need courage. My brothers and sisters, there is no day like another in leadership. Every day is new, and every challenge is new. In most cases, the challenges we face are daunting, whether you're talking about leading your own family or leading your organization. You must start with the conviction to challenge convention. That I am going to ask the question, why can't we do it differently? When I was in the youth group in church, we used to sing a chorus that time, which ended like, dare to be a Daniel, and dare to stand alone, and dare to have a purpose and live by it. So secondly, to succeed as leaders, really must have a purpose beyond self. We will not achieve anything as families, as communities, as a country, if we do not have in leadership the commitment to look beyond self. And again, let me tell you very sincerely, it's okay, it's fine and dandy actually to be a minister. I mean, you are paid well, you are driven around, you're even given bodyguards. You can drive for 7 days without going to the petrol station to fuel your car. But you know, you can also be lost in that sort of opulence and you do nothing for the people who in the first place are the reasons why you hold the position. And for me, I want to be honest with you. Every day I wake up, I ask myself the question, what are the pains that those people out there expect us to resolve? So that, because once you ask that question, you will not see a limit to the extent you need to apply yourself. I have never seen a limit to the extent I would like to apply myself if I am going to solve a problem, because you think about the problems of those people. I used to meet people when I was Minister for Education who were very surprised that I would wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning to go to the containers. And I told them, I have no problem staying awake all night if that means that those children get genuine grades and they move forward in a genuine manner. My comfort means nothing. I could stay in my house, wake up in the morning, chances are that by the time I get to the door, there will be someone to salute me, even if I've done nothing. Then be driven back left, enjoy the comfort of this life. But that hasn't changed the lives of the people for whom we actually, in the first place, are employed. So our lives really must have a purpose. There must be something you live for. And that something cannot be the comfort of your office. And for us to make the change that we need to make, we must always ask ourselves that question. What do we live for? What is the purpose of what we are doing? One of my former bosses told me that if you leave an organization and people do not miss you, or no one misses anything you are doing, it means you ought not to have been there in the first place anyway, because you never made an impact. So I go around telling public servants, okay, if you can do nothing, at least plant even trees so that when you are gone, someone might say, these trees were planted here when so-and-so was the minister. At least do something, you know, as it were. At least do something. Move to the next level. Thirdly, there is no way we can achieve anything without sacrifice. Frankly speaking, leadership and sacrifice are two sides of one coin. We have to make sacrifices. Sacrificing comfort is one thing, but most importantly, sacrificing the petty small things or small comforts or conveniences of this life is even much more important. I have been giving people an example that, you know, in public life, in dysfunctional societies, you can make a lot of money when you are a corrupt person. Because people come and tell you, they try to offer you things and they tell you, you know, they can do this or that or the other for you. The sacrifice you have to make is to win yourself, first of all, out of those challenges, and then secondly, stand firm. I know the word firm is very common in my press conferences because I insist we will be firm on these things and we will not change. Why? Because I know people actually can change. And you can be talked to at night and you change. And influential people can come and persuade you to change and offer you other things and tell you, we do this business, we are good brewers and we have a lot of money. We can change your life if we offered you so much because I know you can change. So making a sacrifice and sacrificing some of those is very important because there is no way you can achieve anything without making the sacrifice. Fourthly, it's about our character. And I'll tell you why I think many of our politicians and many political leaders across this continent are not respected by people. And respect is not the sound of the claps you receive at public rallies or the songs that people sing for you. I believe genuinely that respect comes out of inspiration when you inspire people and you change their lives. And there are very few people who are that respected because in much of our public life, a lot of our leaders are two people walking around as one. There is you who stands up before people, and there is the real you when you are away from the public. Strength of character is very important. Carrying big Bibles and pontificating religious theory is not the way. We have to live what we tell people to do. And then sometimes, let me be honest with you, my brothers and sisters, sometimes plain, straightforward living is in itself leadership. You lead by example. So strength of character. And sometimes the strongest test is the one you face when you are within the budget office as a leader. You have to go through several police officers to come in. And then when you get in, you are in that budget office, you are closed in there, you are alone. And most times you make decisions in there when you are alone. That is when your character is most tested, as it were. Because those people you lied to over weekends on church pulpits are not there. It's just between you and your God. The strength of character to be able to say, this is the way we will follow, and it's for the good of the people for whom I work. This is, I honestly think that across this continent, both in private sector and in public sector, if we lived this way, one, we will raise generations of strong people. Our young people who look up to us will be inspired enough to live right and to do the right thing. But if we tell people one thing and do the other, and honestly, we are not strong characters, we obviously will lose out in the process. I would like to conclude by saying this. I cannot thank the Lord enough for the opportunity I have had to serve my country. There is no nobler thing that can happen to you as a citizen of a country than to be asked to serve your country in whatever respect, whether as a police officer, as a clerk, or as a minister. I am grateful, and I will eternally be grateful to God for the opportunity I've had to serve my country. Most importantly, I'll be grateful to my president for the opportunity he has given me to serve under him. Because a lot of people ask me, there are several times people have thought I'm going to be fired for taking certain decisions. And I've told them I will not move 1 centimeter if I have not agreed with my boss. And the fortunate thing about strong leadership at the top in a country is because you don't bargain or think about political will. Our president is transformational in his leadership, and he's focused on changing our country. And when we have discussions on things that need to be done, even when we have to make tough decisions, I will always move because I know my boss also believes we need to crack the cartels in the textbook distribution so that we can achieve the one-to-one book pupil ratio. And so I have no problem facing them and telling them to actually find something better to do, but we are going to succeed in what we want to do because we are determined to do it, as it were. And as long as you have sufficient political will and you are determined and you have the courage to contest convention, to move away from the ordinary, and as long as you are driven by a purpose that looks beyond yourself, that thinks about those people out there, you will always succeed. I thank God for the experience I've had, and I'll close by sharing this experience with you. One day after the release of exams in 2017, I was coming home, and Kenyans are very vulnerable. We express ourselves sometimes we don't hide. So a middle-aged woman met me on the queue at the airport in Dubai. And she asked me, "Are you Matiang'i?" I tried to tell her to lower her voice. But she obviously was very excited. She could not lower her voice. Then when I said yes, she raised her voice and said, "Oh, wow," But anyway, she was very excited, to cut a long story short, because she showed me I have the letter of my child who has been admitted to school X, and I have printed it out here in Dubai, and I'm now going to Nairobi to pay fees and take the child to school. In the past, I would have had to go there a month earlier to look for someone to help me get her from one place and suffer. Probably bribe someone, probably have the letter get lost. And when I told my colleagues at the Ministry of Education, why do we go through a laborious exercise of pulling everybody together and selecting children in a manual way so that we can provide an opportunity for rent seekers to look for bribes? They told me, this is how we have always done it. And I said, let's try it a different time. This era of technology. And every parent will just basically get the index number of the child, and they will go into the system once we have selected them and print out their letter of admission and go to school. They don't have to talk to us here in Jogo House. They don't have to come here so that we look big and important and keep them on a queue, as it were. Because all they need is that simple thing. For many parents, they just need to get their letter and take their child to school. They don't need, and by them doing that, we will not have become small people anyway. We'll still be the people we are here. But those people will have received the services they need, as it were. And the second reason why I thank the Lord is that through these 7 years, I have seen how making radical decisions can actually affect people's lives in a positive way. And it changes people's lives. And these things do change. And so, if there's anything I pray about every day, is that as long as God gives me life and opportunity, when I meet an opportunity to make a decision, I'll make the right decision, regardless of who is on the other side. The right decision, regardless of who I'm going against. Especially if it's a decision that is going to be for the good of our people, and a decision that is going to be for the good of fellow men. That is what I believe God wants us to do. That's what leadership entails.
Even by their silence, the NHIS, the NSI, the NS, the NIS, the NIS, that they don't know what is happening. They know. And the fact that they know is that not only have Kenyans been abducted, but foreign nationals have been abducted, and documents produced in foreign courts that they were abducted with the complicity of the Kenyan state. Or rather, maybe not the Kenyan state, but the Ruto regime. So we have seen Dr. Kizza Besigye and other Ugandan nationals taken from Kisumu, taken from Nairobi by Ugandan security forces, and the documents produced in Ugandan courts showing that these people were picked with the collusion of the Kenyan state or the Ruto regime. Also, you saw the Turkish nationals abducted and they surfaced up in Turkey. There's no way you can abduct somebody and put them on an airplane at Jomo Kenyatta airport and say, okay, now go to Turkey. Close where he went. There was a young man in here who was a very active civil society fellow. He got abducted. To date, we don't know where he went. Just because he was a witness at the ICC. This culture cannot be allowed to continue. This country is greater than Mr. Ruto, and Mr. Ruto cannot run this country like it is lesser than him. It's a very painful day where we are, and we are demanding that these abductions end. The High Court has given orders that these people must be produced within 7 days in the case I filed. And I assure you, as day follows night, if the then 7 days expire without these people being produced, we are back on the streets. Are you ready?
Are you ready?
Are you ready?
Yes.
So we are going to go back on the streets until every Kenyan is accounted for. We cannot have young people moving around with fear. Right now, I've got about 20 guys who are hiding. They've told me they're going into hiding because they fear they're being tracked. We cannot have that. And as that is happening, this same regime is stealing and looting from Kenyans. Billions of shillings are being stolen. That's why the economy is empty. So we cannot continue this way. And this invitation to anarchy will be resisted and rejected. And I can assure you, as day follows night, we are going to defeat Mr. Ruto. Mr. Ruto's agenda is retrogressive. Mr. Ruto's agenda is to destroy this country. Mr. Ruto's agenda is to ensure that Kenya goes back to the dark days. And we are not allowing it. Fortunately for us, we have got a constitution that prescribes in detail how this country is to be governed. And we are going to make sure that that constitution is what will run this country. That will be the software that will run the hardware called Kenya. It's the constitution of Kenya. And we are not negotiating on that. We even reject attempts to amend the same constitution to create jobs for some dinosaurs. It's going to happen. We must implement the constitution the way it is as the way forward. It's not negotiable. And human rights are the tip of the spear in that constitution. So we're asking Mr. Ruto, if he still makes use of his brain, to stop what he's doing, to release these innocent Kenyans, and to stop these abductions, just as he promised in Bondo, in Homa Bay. He admitted on national TV that he's behind these things. And also, Article 143 grants Mr. Ruto immunity as President of Kenya, or for the time he serves as President of Kenya. But Clause 4 of the same article denies him immunity for this kind of actions, abductions, which are criminal acts under international law. So we are also going to test our courts by dragging Mr. Ruto to those courts and see what comes of it. We are not going to allow this country to go to the dogs. Mr. Ruto is a very small thing in this country, just like I'm a very small thing in this country, just like everybody who is a small thing in this country with one ID. And when we die, we shall be thrown into a small hole, but the country called Kenya will continue. Kenya is eternal, each one of us is mortal. And that's what we must realize. And if Mr. Ruto does not understand that plain statement, let him put it in a cup of tea or roll it up in a roll of bang and smoke it. It might get to his head that way. We cannot afford this. All these small boys being targeted, being tortured, and sleeping on cold floors just because they sat down and demanded that that the abductees be accounted for. I've been run around at night that I've received orders from above that Gigiri police station is too comfortable. I should be taken to a police station where I will suffer. But whoever gave that order did not know that the toilets in Kamkunja are cleaner than the toilets in Gigiri, so I ended up enjoying more. That's how God works. So please, Mr. Ruto, stop this scam. You swore to defend the Constitution of Kenya, defend it. You're fooling yourself with the sword. But it's written in the Bible that whoever lives by the sword perishes by the sword.
Martha Karua has condemned the rising cases of abductions in the country. Martha Karua has described the police as being directly responsible for the wave of disappearances while calling for the immediate release of all individuals who have been abducted. She further blames the government for overseeing the abductions.
Abduction of Kizza Besigye from Uganda, who was abducted
in Nairobi when coming to attend my book launch, we now know it's Ugandan military who abducted him from Kenya. There is no way foreign military or neighboring military can come in, get somebody, and move past the border with him without the authority from the highest office. It therefore means that William Ruto did sanction that abduction. And they cannot claim that it's cooperation between Kenya and Uganda. Countries must cooperate within the law, not like Jambazi. That abduction was gangster style. We are reminding William Ruto that Kenya has a constitution, and we are demanding that all abducted persons be released forthwith to celebrate the festivities with their families the way William Ruto is celebrating.
I love Monday.com.
What's Monday.com?
You don't know Monday.com? This is Monday.com. It's a platform that helps us run our work, collaborate with other departments, understand our business, and reach our
to the crowd of non-violent demonstrators, killing one too many of our law-abiding youth and injuring far too many. Shockingly, they fired indiscriminately live bullets into the crowd of non-violent demonstrators, killing one too many of our law-abiding youth and injuring far too many. Kenyans will remember the first to fall was Rex Masai. Up to date, not one security agent has been charged with these heinous and illegal atrocities against humanity. And in the case of Rex Masai, you'll have noticed an attempt at an inquest. An inquest is not a criminal proceeding. It is just an inquest, a way of trying to make it easy for the culprits to escape. To compound this brazen criminality, the Ruto regime embarked with shocking familiarity the practice of abducting our youth just because they expressed their opinion, drew pictures, created artwork widely shared on social media that Mr. Ruto did not like. This terrible practice of abduction by hooded brutes is reminiscent of the dreaded Adolf Hitler's Nazi militias. Up to date, and given that none of these balaclava-wearing gangsters captured clearly on CCTV have been arrested, there can only be one conclusion. They received the instructions directly from State House Nairobi. Let us not pretend about this. What is clear, no matter the type of whitewashing, chest thumping, and sugarcoating Mr. Ruto's misguided social media gang attempts to do by sponsoring all manner of hashtags, is that Mr. William Ruto is the chief commander of the abduction squad. We demand that all 82 youth who have been abducted in the last 3 months be released and returned to their families immediately. Some were actually been abducted as recently as yesterday. We also demand that all 29 missing youth whose whereabouts are unaccounted for be accounted for forthwith. If any of them will have been killed, the blame will be squarely on Kenya Kwanza regime. We also call on our international partners to note these serious crimes against humanity being perpetuated by Kenya Kwanza regime and to add their voice of condemnation. Fellow Kenyans, it is preposterous that thousands of Kenyans are today unrepresented in parliament and at the county assemblies because of an individual's vested interest in the 2027 elections, which he wishes to manipulate through a user-friendly Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission, IEBC. Mr. Ruto's proxy, Augustine Muli, has delayed the IEBC selection panel process, knowing full well that it does not meet the criteria on any and all levels. And the matter was pronounced by a competent judge of the High Court. This long, drawn-out, and unnecessary process can, however, be curtailed as our republic is bigger than one man. We therefore say in a loud and clear voice, Mr. Ruto, do the honorable thing and instruct your proxy to withdraw his court cases at the Court of Appeal. Let me, however, take this opportunity to assure Kenyans that they are not alone. While we have lost 2 precious years under this KK dictatorship, 2025 will not follow a similar path. But do you recall that I said at this podium, the next election, whenever that will be, was going to be won in 2024. As Kenyans celebrate Christmas and welcome the new year, remember those reflections? The outcome of the next elections is already determined. And I'm no prophet, but I said that. Even then, agencies are not come out to the streets. Well, I just want to go back one paragraph that 2025 will not follow a similar path. We will not allow it. As a people's loyal position for now, we will lead in mobilizing of all progressive and democratic entities in the country to resist the Ruto autocracy. Kenya Kwanza regime must respect the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya or vacate office if they are unable to comply. Equally, we reject the silencing of Kenyans through fear. We will lead the fight against the culture of fear that Ruto and his blood-based government are trying to sell to the nation. We also loudly reject Mr. Ruto's sinister schemes of silencing of alternative voices and the opposition through buying them into blood-based regime. To those who have been bought, know this: you have betrayed the people of Kenya. Finally, for now, we are sending a warning shot to the Kenya Kwanza regime on oppressive taxation, corruption, wastage in government, and on the dysfunctional Shah-Schiff disaster. Listen to the voices of the people on these matters. We are telling you to listen to the teachers of this country, to our university lecturers, and to the farmers. Listen to the industrialists and the employers, and listen to the ordinary man in the street. Listen to the common Kenyan whom you once referred to as a hustler. Listen to Mama Mboga, to Boda Boda, and to Beba Beba. The new year, 2025, will be different. This is our promise to Kenyans and to you, Mr. President William Ruto. On a different note, I wish to thank Honorable Zain Abubakar, I don't know whether he's here, for accepting to lead my presidential secretariat for the last 6 months. He's been on duty, actually. His rich and prolific academic background, combined with years of activism, has already enriched our growing people's team. In the coming months, we will be unveiling more members of the team determined to rid this country of dictatorship and return us to constitutional democracy.
The Secretary Honorable Hassan Joe gets the time to even insult Kenyans on social media, because those Kenyans who are on social media, if he says that they are idle because leaders like him who are corrupt have made it impossible for those young people to get opportunities, so they have a lot of time to be on social media. Secondly, I don't think that his level of education and intellect is one that we would want to argue with. Okay, we are definitely more informed than he is, so we'd like him to attend classes so that we just educate him a little bit about our country. For example, I can educate him that there is 8.7 trillion worth of niobium at Mrima Hill in Lunga constituency in Kwale County that he needs to safeguard. There is money that is supposed to be remitted to the Kenyan government by Base Titanium, which has been doing mining operations in Kwale County and is winding up its operations this year. There is gold in Transmara constituency. There is even gold in Western Province. There is oil in Turkana. I believe his plate is full. Where he gets the time to do these kind of things is what I do not know. I believe he has a lot in terms of safeguarding our natural resources and not participating in corruption or in online social media skits with young people who are unemployed because of corrupt leaders like himself. So it will be unworthy of the Inject Party to engage with Ali Hassan Joho. We are a national party. Him is only a kingpin of some area in the coast of people, actually, few people who believe in him. So we believe that even if we went to an election with Ali Hassan Joho, he would not garner a quarter of what we would garner in that election. So in this interview, it's completely worthless to have him as a conversation. He is just in the cabinet because he belonged to ODM and ODM was bought into the coalition government. If ODM was not bought into the coalition government, he would probably be still doing the same social media that he is insulting people for. Yeah, so Ali Hassan Joho should get his act together, and President William Ruto should prevent his ministers, cabinet secretaries like Ali Hassan Joho, from insulting Kenyans who are already angry and hungry from the collapsing economy. Should control them. Needs to be controlled.
My last question. This one is in regards to a certain statement that was published yesterday in regards to one CEO of David Group of companies, Red Baraka. The government of Kenya exempted him from taxes and wages 11 billion Kenyan shillings, and their main reason for exempting him from paying taxes worth 11 billion Kenyan shillings is that they are trying to attract more investors into the country. What is your take on that? Knowing that the president has been pushing it so hard for every Kenyan to be taxed. And also, my last question is: Inject Party really a registered party? Because according to the statement that was given yesterday, is that Inject Party has not yet been approved by the government of the Republic of Kenya as a party.
So with regards to, those are two questions. With regards to taxation, I believe one of my team members can answer. With regard to registration, I believe that falls in the docket of the Secretary General. So I don't know who will handle taxes. Already?
Let me
You can come closer to them. Oh, okay. Oh, she can. Okay, just go ahead.
Okay, now with regards to, let's start with the party registration first of all. So party registration in Kenya, it's a process. It's not a one-day event. So you first start with the name reservation, then you reserve the symbol, you reserve your slogans, you reserve your party colors. So Inject Party, where it is right now, is at the registration of the symbols, colors, and slogans. The next, and those have been approved by the Registrar of Political Parties. The next process will now be to upload our constitution and certain party documentation, together with the list of the founders and all that. And once that is complete, we will now proceed now to get a provisional certificate. Once you get a provisional certificate, we now start the recruitment drive for all Kenyans, go county by county, registering people into our political party. And then finally, we will now get our final registration certificate. So it's a process. We can't complete. There's no political party in Kenya that has ever been registered within a month. It's practically impossible. We are in the process of registering the party, but we have the name reservation, the party slogans, the party colors, and the party symbol all reserved. Yes. With regards to
taxation?
On the question on taxation, this is what we would say. There are laws on how somebody can be exempted from tax obligations. So it really will be important for us to understand and to verify that the president, in making that decision to exempt that particular individual from tax obligation, that he followed the set regulations when it pertains to tax law. Yes.
And it actually speaks volumes. Exempting taxes for billionaires while increasing taxes for ordinary Kenyans, that tells you that this is a government that doesn't care at all about the ordinary Mwananchi. So it's alarming. The reasoning and the rationale behind it, of course, it will be all create jobs, but it's basically the classic move of the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer.
Actually, let me just on the same point about the taxation. Sorry, I'm Wafula Nangacho. I'm the communications director of the Inject Movement and Party. So to add on the taxation issue, actually that's the exact definition of state capture, where individuals are using their own connections and links to influence policies, because that is a policy that they are trying to sneak in through KRA, so that they can exempt a particular person to have an effect. Most of their policies and laws that they are bringing in, they are laws that are making someone somewhere a billionaire. When they come up with what we call a shift project or shisha or shia, what they are doing exactly is they are bringing a system that will bring a new set of people so that they can control the funds, and they are forcing people. Because I had the advisor, he's one of his advisors, Moses, but I don't know what he advises him. He said students will not be allowed to report to school when they have not been registered on the shift system. So what exactly they are doing, they are trying to use the parliament and the executive to bring laws so that they can make money for themselves. When the president pushes for a policy like the new funding model, he's trying to push people to make education very expensive for the public universities, and at the same time, he's building a very big university at the in Gisho or Eldoret. And that is where he wants to be, because we will all study. What he will do, education becomes expensive at Moi University and University of Eldoret, and he makes it cheap at his own university, and people will go here and he'll make money. So it's a very sad state of affairs, and we need to call them out. We need to make sure the policies that come in place, they are favorable to each and every person, not one particular person or one particular group of people. Thank you.
More questions?
One question from me. You say that the people that held presser yesterday were some of them were part of your team. Maybe you can just tell us, maybe when last did they participate, and what roles were they playing on your party, and why did they leave?
Okay, so I think that one is meant for me.
Yeah.
When you will answer, yes. Mr. Mugane will answer for me.
Good evening,
I can
members of
answer
the press.
very well, but you can.
I'm Mugane Mugo. I'm in charge of membership and mobilization, which is an interim position in this party. So, first of all, I want to echo the words of our party leader. Whatever we do in this movement, we do it on voluntary basis. We don't expect payment or reimbursement of whichever kind. So when we have people that have joined the movement and they expect that they will gain some financial, or they expect some financial miracle to happen from us, it is impossible. In fact, some of these people and some of us who are called into those meetings, some of these people have been bought, and the change of lifestyle is evident. I've seen some of them opening new businesses. I've seen some of them with very expensive watches, which is a miracle that cannot happen within a month of someone that was borrowing fare to come here. So for us, we are adamant, we are committed to the cause. We cannot be bought because the freedom of this country is not worth any amount of money. Secondly, I cannot even remember the last time these people came. It's 29
September.
It's 29 September. It's a long time ago. It's a scheme they have been scheming behind closed doors to sabotage the movement. But what we tell the government as well is that you can buy a few individuals, but some of us that are committed to this cause, we are ready to defend our democracy. We are ready to fight corruption with whatever it takes. We are worth more than, those hundreds of thousands that are being dished out to our young people. Thank you.
There was also a claim by those who are your party members before that the money that Kenyans have been contributing towards the civic education is being sent to Morara's phone numbers, direct personal accounts, and they feel that there's not going to be a proper accountability. So,
I think the party leader will answer that, but also to bring you up to speed, whatever happened in the last 6 or so months that the movement has been on, 3 months, he has published it in the social media. You saw the kilometers that we've covered, and actually even the M-Pesas that he has been using, they are prone to scrutiny. Anyone that wants those reports, as he said, can come here. And right now, the treasurer will handle that. There's a bank account that is in place, and it has 3.
Is that those phone numbers were my numbers before we started doing this. When we started, Kenya started donating to those numbers, I stopped using them for personal reasons, and now they were being used by the party. In fact, everybody here can say that they've had access to those phone numbers. In fact, even the messages you write to those phone numbers, Dalias has had, to read them, and then he briefs us on what is going on. So this is what happens. The reason we had to use a phone number to receive money is because, one, to avoid con men. Because when they send the money and the person they know is Morara and they see the name Imeleta kwa M-Pesa Kebaso Morara, they develop a sense of trust. The second issue why we had to use those phone numbers is because we had a lot of support from the diaspora, which we still have to date. There are people who are in the US, who are in UK, who are in Germany, who support us and who support the movement to have fuel and to have security. So when they send, they usually use platforms like SendWave. Now on SendWave, you cannot send to a paybill and you cannot send to a till. You cannot send to a phone number. And that phone number has to be registered to an individual. Even if it is not Morara, it has to be someone else. So what we did is we created a 14-member team where 7 people come from Inject and 7 people come from the diaspora. So we have a team of 14 people, 7 who live outside Kenya and 7 who are here. And the 14-member committee, what it does is that they budget for money every month. They say, this is what we need. We need to pay watchmen, we need to pay security, we need to pay internet, we need to pay electricity, and we need fuel. We want to do this and this and this civic education in this and this and this place. Once they do the budgeting, then the expenditure is not even done by me. By then, I'm not the one who usually pays. We have our finance director here, Farida. She's the one we call. Even when we are at the petrol station, she's the one we send the till number, then she pays from our kitty. Then all the payments we've ever made, the receipts are there. So what we usually do every month, we usually sit down in the boardroom, we put together the receipt and we create an accountability report. The reason maybe some people feel left out in terms of this accountability is because we are limited. Our hands are tied as regards to how much we can share with you or with the general public. The reason is some of this information is very sensitive and it is critical to our security. For example, where we slept, for example, where we slept and where we paid to sleep is very critical information. Where we fuel, all right, or which car was fueled. Sometimes we leave our own cars here and we borrow cars for security purposes. So for that reason, if we publish all information just because we want to make so and so happy, at the end of the day, we'll be compromising our own security. And that is why whenever I post to request for financial support, I usually say, support us if you can trust us. So we believe that Kenyans still trust us because to this day, regardless of all the propaganda that goes on out there trying to tarnish our names, to this day, there are Kenyans who still believe in us and continue to support us. Even today, even this morning, even 1 hour ago, even 20 minutes ago, there are Kenyans who send us 10 bob, 50 bob to support what we do. And we are putting together resources for different programs. For example, we are going to have Vijana Shika ID program, where we are going to encourage the youth to get IDs. We are going to have youth registration program to help the youth to register as, as voters. We are trying to put together a group of friends to come and support us so that we see whether we can have either a music studio or just cameras for shooting, for helping people with the talent to be able to shoot content in this place or even to record music in this place, just as a way of reaching out to the youth and lifting them up with us, because when we go up, we want to go up with them. So we have all these programs we are planning. So sometimes we even have resources in the bank account, but those resources cannot be used because they belong to a certain program and we cannot remove it and put it in fuel. Ni mara nyingi sana hata sisi wenyewe tumetumia fedha zetu sisi wote binafsi. Any Kenyan who is out there, who is watching us today, that feels that they really need this information. This is not information that you can publish on our website or on our social media, because this is information that will be accessed by both our friends and our enemies. Just come here, give us a notice 3 days in advance so that the person who's supposed to give you this information prepares the information for you. Come here, sit down even for 2 hours or 3 hours, go through our records, be satisfied, including you who are in the media sector. You can give us a 3-day notice. You can come, go through our records one by one, see what we received, how we spent it, what we did with it, be satisfied. At least that way, we will know who accessed our information. So that if we see is out there, tutajua so and so and so and so and so and so are the ones that have accessed this kind of information. I hope you understand. Asanteni sana. Sorry?
But in addition to what he said, there's still accountability documentation and financial reports that usually published by him on social media. So there's nothing to hide. We are an open and accountable movement that is really strong in integrity, transparency, and data.
Any other? Any other question?
No question.
Thank you so much.
Your child needs these 3 key factors to get into an Ivy League or top 25 university. And it's not having a good GPA or SAT score. Let me explain. 90% of students with a 4.0 plus GPAs get rejected.
He said that if we had a thinking government and you planted 1 billion trees, cypress trees, or cedar trees, because you know the demand for timber in China is insatiable. So if we had planted these things, like say when President Uhuru became president on day one, in 10 years we'd have 1 billion trees. Even if you sold one for as cheap as 10,000 shillings, which is very little, you would have 10 trillion. We would pay our debt just from selling trees that we planted when someone became president.
Name is yes. No, it's a good way.
Yeah.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Today, I want us just to discuss generally on what is happening in our country, and particularly discussing the role of opposition in government and why the opposition that we really wanted to rely on has at a very critical point decided to join government. Your views, your thoughts, and also they did not just join government. I remember even during Nusmukate, where it was official, it is something that we even crafted a law in parliament to legalize the marriage between the opposition and the then government. This one is an interesting one, where the top cream of the main opposition party in Kenya, the top cream of ODM, the two vice party leaders, the chairman of the party, the minority leader in the National Assembly, all leaves their party to join government. And again, you look at the portfolios that was offered to them. Look at my friend John Badi, who was made the Minister for Finance, meaning he's in charge of not only the taxes collected by KRA, meaning KRA is under him, Central Bank is under him, all banks are under him, anything financial is under him. And given that those of you understand what government is, the key components of a government is the finance portfolio and security portfolio. If you have the two, you have the government. This is a situation where a government that won with majority, it has majority in parliament, it has everything majority, decides, let me offload one of the most critical, actually half of the government, what makes government function. Let me offload it to the opposition. I want you as a lawyer maybe to dissect this, look at it in detail, and try and explain to our viewers why you think such a step was taken, and whether it is retrogressive or whether it is helping to bring peace in the country. And whether the demonstrations by Gen Z were violent or other people ostensibly sponsored came in to turn peaceful demonstrations into a violent demonstration, and also look at our history and tell us the origin of violence in politics in this country, and really whether the current government has an in-depth grasp of hooliganism in Nairobi, hooliganism in Mombasa, hooliganism in Western, hooliganism in Nyanza, whether they really had a grasp of who are the key players when you want to turn Kakamega into chaos, you want to turn Kisumu into chaos, you want to turn Nairobi into chaos, Mombasa into chaos. Obviously, they are key players, those that are the bosses of the goons that normally are deployed to cause havoc.
Oh, thank you very much. I think you started by speaking about government in opposition and opposition in government. And I think to start, right, we'd like to see who is the leader of opposition in Kenya. My clear submission is that the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, has now become the leader of official opposition in government. In fact, I have been seeing him. He's an amphibian. He's in government and he's also out of government. He's this guy who he lives in water and he lives on land, because at night they accuse him of sponsoring JZs. They accuse him of having night meetings to try and topple the government. And he does come out clearly. I remember one time the president made a press briefing in Nairobi and the deputy made his in Mombasa, and he painted the intelligence of this country in a very bad light. Not in a bad light, in a true light. I think he's a truthful man to some extent. So he said the truth about our intelligence bodies and how they are doing things. But even when there was a lot of demolition of houses within specific areas in Nairobi, it is the deputy president who came and said that his community is being attacked. So we have a very amorphous and amphibian kind of relationship, because you are at some point leader of official opposition and at some point you're the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya. But let us talk of the coming of ODM into government. Who is William Ruto? William Ruto is a man who believes in one-party rule. He's a person who believes in emasculating political parties. He started immediately he was declared president, before even the court made the ruling. He had swept all the parties from the northern region, and they were being said now they are no longer Azimio, they've joined Kenya Kwanza. Then he would go and inject a bad needle into Jubilee with Kanini Kega and Sabina Chege ruining Jubilee. That was his craftsmanship. And then immediately that is done, he comes now and says, oh, I'm done with all parties. I'm only left with Wiper and ODM. So how do you finish ODM? It is not really the person of Mbadi he was interested in. It is Mbadi, the chairman of ODM. It is the two deputies of ODM. I can tell you, even the leader of minority in Bunge, he was not picked just because he was leader of minority. He was picked, one, because officially he's like the opposition leader. And he was also picked because Opiyo Wandayi holds a party position. And so the whole idea was to weaken and finish the oldest political party, which he has now been able to do, because Orengo has been left making noise on the other side and trying to figure out what has just happened to their party. So ODM is never going to be the same again after what has happened right now, because the key leaders of the party have been taken into government. And of course, once in a while, they'll be told, hey, there's this contract. Tell us something about ODM, or we give this contract to someone else. And these people went there because one of the other reasons they went is because they are hungry. So they will reveal a lot of secrets for ODM if ODM does have any secrets, and they are going to weaken the party from within, because in as much as they are expected to resign their party positions, their allegiance is still within ODM. And their own supporters are wondering, do we follow our leader now that he's joined government, or do we remain in ODM and do we remain in opposition politics? The leader of official opposition, Raila Amolo Odinga, what does he become? Does he become an amphibian party leader? Sometimes he's the leader of ODM, and sometimes he's the leader of the ODM that is part of government. Which ODM is he going to lead? So it's a very difficult position for him. But also, having said that, I would like to say William Samoei Ruto is also very clever. You asked a question about why he gave them the key dockets. William Ruto is looking at 2027. And he wants to come and say, hata hii finance, yule mtu alileta mambo mbaya ni Mbadi. Huyu Mbadi ndio alileta bad policies. Yeye ndio alikuwa in charge of finance. Na Mbadi ni wa wapi? Si Mbadi ni Mjaluo, si ni wa huku kwenyu. So he will go to Nyanza very comfortably. And that's why, think about it. The top person in KRA for a long time was Kikuyu. The top person at the Ministry of Finance was Kikuyu. The person in charge of the head of budget at Parliament was Kikuyu. The head of finance committee is Kikuyu. So what does he do? He wants to wait, and his plan was very clear. He would have waited for 2027, would have come in Mount Kenya and said, I made bad financial decisions there. The whole sector that is involving finance in this country, who was in charge? It is your people. So he's going to take and remove himself and above. Like now, the other problem we've had in this country is an issue of electricity. William Samoei Ruto wants to make token expensive. He wants to make electricity very expensive. He wants to increase taxation on electricity. What's the best way to do? Is to get a person from the opposition stronghold and put him in charge of energy. But the people who are consuming the money coming in the ministry, you know, they all speak government language. If they go, they can actually decide to use mother tongue, because look at the head of the main parastatals that are for electricity and power generation, Kenyan, Ketrako, all of them. They can literally go into a boardroom and decide Kiswahili is not necessary, English is not necessary. We can speak in mother tongue. So you have a guy there from an opposition stronghold being told he's the one in charge of horrible decisions in the energy sector, but the consumers of the money that come into energy sector are speaking government language, and they are making decisions in a language that some of us in this room would never understand. So that's William Samoei Ruto for you.
Nursing, it is not a career. Nursing is a calling.
So he takes the key ministries where he feels I am being blamed for these ones. And then he makes sure the beneficiaries of those ministries are his people. And the people taking the bad beat and the burden of those ministries are the people from opposition strongholds. And I can tell you in 2027, he will pull that card out. He will come and say, Nani alikuwa in charge of energy? He will not mention his people who speak government language. He will talk of the top people in charge of energy. So this is a very well calculated political move. I've always said, William Ruto is not a good leader. Give it up to him. But he's a good politician, and he's very thorough, and he's playing politics with these people, and they have not gotten it. You asked about the peaceful demos in Nairobi. I must say it's a very sad affair, because we saw government creating chaos in its own country. We saw people saying we are going to protect our property. I saw an MCA from Eastlands, and I don't want to mention his name because I'll give him too much airtime that is not even worth, coming on national TV and saying we are going to protect our businesses, and literally paying goons from his old Range Rover and saying that these goons are supposed to come and terrorize people in Nairobi and terrorize the Gen Zs because they think the Gen Zs are the problem. Gen Zs are not the problem. Nobody elected Gen Zs to power. Gen Zs do not make any policy. They are not the source of the finance bill. We all know who is the source of the finance bill. So these people who have done that, and we saw some even being mobilized from City Hall and being funded and being given money outside City Hall and living with clubs and sticks. And I asked myself, Article 37 of the Constitution, when it speaks about freedom of assembly and the right to picket and to do all those things, had never envisioned that somebody would come with a stick, with a djembe stick to a demonstration, and the police would look at him. And then someone will come with an iPhone, and the police would clobber the man with an iPhone and a flag and leave behind the guy carrying a djembe stick, because the djembe stick guy is mobilized by the same government to fight the same young people. This for me is a very horrible situation. And I think if we are to file a petition in court against the policemen, it would be on this particular issue, that we have records of young men carrying weapons to demonstrations, being ignored by policemen. And we have records of beautiful young girls carrying a flag, drinking water, and a phone, being beaten. We have evidence of young people being shot from rooftops who carried only a flag and an iPhone. But the horrible goon who carried a fighting stick walked freely into town and left town. There's a supermarket that was looted for 3 hours, continuously. Guys would loot, go home if you live in Kayole, and come back and still find others looting, and you continue looting. They carried a lot of stuff. The police were not available there, but they were available at the pressings of parliament to shoot and pour the brains of young people on tarmac, because they have said no to a finance bill. This is the kind of administration we are dealing with. It's a very insensitive one. It's a member of parliament who tells you, I will go to parliament, I will pass this law. Whether you like the law or not, I will pass it. And if you not allow me to pass it, I'll procure tear gas, I'll procure guns, I'll procure bullets, and I'll beat you into submission for me to pass this law.
This is very interesting and extremely deep and touching, where the government is the thug against its own citizens. We know the head of government today, William Ruto. You can blame him for anything, but can you blame Ruto for knowing the gang leaders of thugs in Nairobi? Can you blame William Ruto for knowing the gang leaders in Kakamega, in Kisumu, and in Mombasa? Who, in your view, politically, because I don't think Ruto has that capacity. He might have capacity in Rift Valley, but in towns, we have had politics before. We have seen demonstrations in our republic. And of course, the people who take the front row are the same people who then turned and became government and were harassing the innocent young fellas who are just expressing their deep feelings and concern about a deal they felt is hurting a country. Who really would you think was responsible for these guns?
People make errors of commission. People also make errors of omission. President William Ruto made a serious error of omission. We have seen people being abducted left, right, and center. Why have we not seen any goon leader or any person who was carrying a stick to fight others being abducted? I'm yet to wake up one morning and see images of a man who had been on TV beating up Gen Zs having been abducted, and they are saying they've been looking for him. The government is not looking for those ones. It is looking for the innocent young people who had a flag and water, who said we fight this administration. I think it is very easy for us to sit here and apportion blame. I have always said, people would like to say it's Raila Odinga, people would like to say, I don't want to say that, and I'll tell you why. When Kenyans voted, the court said that William Samoei Ruto is president. It therefore places a responsibility on him to protect human life and property. So when people come and start blaming Raila for the destruction of human life and property, I ask them, in your right mind, who is your president? Who is in charge of the police? Who is in charge of intelligence? If we have police available to protect State House and fortify it and make it look like a military barracks, why do we not have police to protect the Gen Zs from the goons? I think from where I sit, I do not want to blame anybody in opposition for what has happened. It goes back to government. The person sitting in a position of responsibility is the person who should have woken up and said, in a country where I am head of state, no young man will raise up with a stick and beat up another young person. So it is incumbent upon the head of state to protect every young person who wanted to do a demonstration. I will not look to the left or right and place that responsibility on any other person, because constitutionally, if the head of state had said it will not happen, I can assure it would not have happened. So let us go back to who holds the mantle. It is President William Samoei Arap Ruto. And this year, I always challenge you, please, please, instead of abducting people left and right and center who are being seen to be fighting this administration, why don't you first abduct those people who've been beating young people for exercising their political rights? For once, tuone mtu alishikwa na tukaambiwa alikuwa na jembe stick and they were beating young people. So whether these demos were organized, I have had names being flouted. I've had few names. In fact, there was a time they took videos of a politician in Nairobi and they were showing his house and they were saying goons had gone there to make noise about the fact that they were not paid. My eyes are not there. My eyes are on the commander-in-chief of the Republic of Kenya, and it is incumbent upon him to protect life and property. And any president who is unable to protect lives to start with and property can resign. It is okay, it's an option. But don't be president in a situation where young people in your country are being brutalized, and then we are looking for scapegoats and people. I can tell you, nobody in this country would do that without the consent of those politicians at the top. So let us focus and say, it is incumbent upon the head of state to protect the lives of Kenyans.
Tell me, in a structuring government, it is clear that those who did it understood that absolute power corrupts absolutely, and hence came up with a structure where we have an opposition, and the opposition is supposed to play the role of checks and balances to ensure that they put the government on its toes to do what is correct. In our case, we find an opposition with a spirit of compromise that let us join the party, in my view, and the perception that has been created. Tell me, is the opposition opposition? Do they believe that they were voted for by Kenyans for them to get to that level? And that what is apportioned to them, they're supposed to play their rightful role. We know the government is not playing its rightful role. We know the demonstrations are because people are upset with the government. But the really people who needed to take the lead in ensuring that the government does not get to the level where it has gotten is the opposition. What are your remarks? What are your views on the opposition in Kenya today?
Number one, I'll start by providing a solution. Fellow Kenyans, we don't have an opposition in the country. So I'm asking Kenyans of goodwill, identify an office somewhere within town or wherever. Give me that office. I want you to bring every document you have, anything about something you feel is going wrong in government, and allow me to put up a pay bill there. I'll offer myself to become leader of opposition. I have been fearless. I've been doing it for free. Now just give me an office, Kenyans, wherever you are. No, give me an office. I'm very serious. Give me an office and a small car. I don't even need a very big car. A small Japanese car, give me an office and give me one security person. Then bring all everything. If you get something happening wrong in the Ministry of Water, bring. Ministry of Health, bring. I will always look for media. I'll invite them for a briefing 3 times a week, and I will tell them where the government is going wrong, because it gets to a point where someone has to offer themselves.
Actually, the government and they would have been opposition, yes, where they are going wrong. So because now they are one.
Yes, now that amphibian outfit we are calling a government, that is a mix of everything. It's a very bitter thing you swallow. It's not hot, it's not cold, it's not sour. It's just a very bad concoction to take to the mouth. And so I'm offering myself. So before I even talk about the opposition, go organize, tell me, Fanyamambo, there's an office here, good. We will start tomorrow morning. I'll drop everything else and become leader of official opposition in Kenya and do it without even a legal provision for it. I'm fearless. Bring me everything. You want me to expose? As long as the documentary evidence is good, I'll be exposing it 3 or 4 times a week. So there's no opposition in this country. What we now have is they are siphoning something from a pot together. See, so it's opposiphon. They are just drinking together. Opposiphon. They are siphoning, and they will siphon this country dry. And they do not mean well for you. They do not mean. I remember one Ali Hassan Joho. Mimi nimtafute William. Mimi nimtafute Ruto. Nitamtafuta nini? Mimi Ruto. Today, when he was appointed, I didn't hear left or right. He woke up and immediately took up. And I was telling someone the other day, William Samoei Ruto is like a man who was given a post-dated check by Raila Amolo Odinga. You know, that time Raila was going to Dubai. He gave him a post-dated check and told him, I'm going to Dubai. When I come back next week, I want you to bank this check. And then when you bank this check, we can see, you'll get the fruits from the check. The check had the 4 names of the 4 guys who become minister. Immediately, Raila Odinga left the country. I don't even think he had landed in Dubai. William Samoei Ruto did not wait. He banked the post-dated check immediately. And we had names. And so there was a lot of confusion. That's how it happened. And so I feel that, yes, we are in a bad position. We do not have an opposition. You cannot be in government and be in opposition at the same time. Even Rigathi Gachagua is confused about his position. My strong submission is, give me an office, enable me, I'll do it for free for
Do you know what's really fun? Making a website on Wix.
Hey, we're How Ridiculous, three childhood friends and digital content creators that do epic stuff from Perth.
Aya, asante sana. Homa Bay hoye! Homa Bay hoye! Amasa ujadurwa. Jadurwa untie. Jadurwa umor. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. Hebu mnisalimie hivi hewani nione Bwana Yesu asifiwe. Basi mimi nimefurahi sana kufika Homa Bay siku ya leo nikiandamana na baba na hawa viongozi wengine. Sisi wote ni wageni wa huyu mama Gladys Wanga ambaye ni gavana wenu wa hapa Homa Bay. Hii Homa Bay ni kaunti imebarikiwa sana. Mimi nimekuja hapa mara nyingi, si ni kweli? Hata kabla sijakuwa sworn in nilikuja hapa Homa Bay, si ndio? Mnakumbuka nilikuja nikalala hapa nikiomba kura, lakini nyinyi mlinipimia kura nyinyi. Hapana sana. Lakini kwa sababu mlimpatia baba, si ndio? Si mlimpatia baba? Na sasa baba na mimi si tuko pamoja? Tuendelee ama tusiendelee? Tuendelee ama tuendelee? Ndio leo mimi nimefika hapa kwa sababu ya mambo ya michezo. Hawa vijana wetu wote, mimi nataka niwapongeze. Vijana wa hapa Homa Bay mumeungana. Tumeona mchezo mzuri sana hapa. Tumeona talent ambayo inaweza kukuzwa. Iwe talent ambayo itakuwa international football, regional football, na hawa vijana waweze kufaidika. Na ndio sababu tangu mwaka uliopita nilisema ile sports fund ambayo inasaidia michezo Kenya isitumiwe tena kwa kazi ingine yeyote. Iwe kazi yake ni kupanga mambo ya vijana wa taifa letu la Kenya. Na ndio sababu tutaongeza pesa ambayo vijana wanapata katika mambo ya vizuri. Amepanga mambo mazuri, amepanga trophy, amepanga pesa, lakini kwa sababu mimi nimefika area. Ndio. Sawa. Sasa nitamuongezea huyu mama shilingi milioni 2 aweze, ili kila team ambayo imecheza hapa, the 66 of them, wapate pesa kidogo ya kurudi nayo nyumbani. Tumekubaliana? Jambo la pili, vile Mheshimiwa Wanga na viongozi wa hapa, Bwana Kaluma, seneta wenu Kajwang, wamesema kuhusu hii stadium, na kwa sababu milioni 500 ya kukamilisha hii stadium, hii kiwanja yote itakuwa imewekwa canopy na hakuna katika kaburi la sahau. Tuunganishe Kenya, Kenya iwe moja. Na wauliza watu wa Homa Bay, ile kuunganisha Kenya ambayo mimi nataka niwaulize vijana wa Kenya, sisi wote tunataka kutembea pamoja. Nataka niulize wazazi, kila mzazi tafadhali, hawa watoto ni baraka kwetu, tumepatiwa na Mwenyezi Mungu. Kila mzazi achunge watoto wake, tuweke kushughulikia watoto wetu. Sisi kama serikali tutafanya sehemu yetu, na yale yamesemekana mambo ya abduction tutakomesha, ndio vijana wa Kenya waweze kuishi kwa amani, na vile vile wawe na nidhamu na wawe wangwana, tuweze kujenga Kenya tukiwa pamoja. Tumekubaliana?
Leo ni siku ya kusherehekea sikukuu tangu juzi mpaka siku ya leo. Nilialikwa na mama Gladys Wanga nikuja hapa kama kawaida kwa sherehe hii ya tarehe 27, na mimi sikujua ya kwamba ameita tena rafiki yangu mwingine hapa. Mimi nimekuja tu kienyeji, na mimi nilikuwa nataka kuja tu kutamudhuru hapa na nyinyi, lakini sasa tumekuwa na wageni kutoka nje wamekuja hapa kusherehekea Christmas na sisi. Si mzuri? Mnafurahi? Mnafurahi? Sasa hapa tumeona mchezo ya kandanda. Tumeona timu ya Homa Bay ikicheza na hapa, ambaye tukikuza vizuri wanaweza kuinuka na kwenda kucheza mpaka kule ng'ambo. Na hii kiwanja vile vile wekwe tatan mpya. Tunataka yale yote ambayo yamekuwa mabaya yaishe, yazike katika hii mwaka ambayo tunazika. Hatutaki kuona dhambi ikiruka inaenda mwaka mpya. Bado nasema tio baba ni mzee, hawezi. Juzi tunaenda nao kwa mizani, si unaona tukipimana na hao, wananiweza kweli hao watu? Wananiweza? Niendelee nisiendelee? Ndio nasema niendelee, nione mkono. Sisi tunakwenda, lakini bado sisi tuko na nyinyi. Sawa sawa. Nataka nyinyi mama imara. Mama huyu Gladys Wanga, unaona Nyang'aya, mwenyekiti wa chama cha ODM, wana ODM mwaka hapa, nione mkono. Homa Bay. Alafu tuko hapa na Adipo Kwome, the tallest MP. Yeye ndio mbunge mrefu zaidi katika bunge. Ero kamani.
Kuanzia leo inarudi wapi? Na watu wa Mombasa na Pwani kwa jumla wapate nini? Faida. Na waanze kupata ajira, kazi na kila kitu, sivyo? So that is what we are saying to the people. Not to listen to someone ambaye hajijui mbele. Sasa wakati nilisema hivyo, yule William Ruto alisikonda pale Changamwe. Akasema, sikizeni.
Watu ambao ni matapeli wanatapeli watu wa Mombasa hii, eti poti inataka kuhamishwa iende Naivasha. kweli kuna tofauti ya watu waliokwenda kusoma darasani na wale walienda madukani kununua makaratasi ya certificate. Unaelewana matuelewane basi? Wewe mtu ya Mombasa, nataka nikuulize, eti sisi tutahamisha poti kutoka hapa kwenda Naivasha? Yaani bahari hii tutahamisha mpaka ifike Naivasha? Hata kama mtu huna akili, hiyo itafanyika kwa njia gani?
Huyo alikuwa William Ruto wa hiyo mwaka, mnakumbuka hiyo mwaka? Sasa wacha niwachelezee wajuzi. Sasa hivi kuna watu watafuta 50 by 10. Halafu kuna mtu ambaye anasema mimi ndio mwenye watu wa hangaiko, watu wa kuhangaika, mimi ndio kiongozi yao. Unatangaza ati umepewa zawadi shamba 2,500 eka. Na mimi najua sheria ya serikali inasema mtu ambaye akipewa zawadi katika ofisi ya serikali inakuwa mali ya umma. Tumemwambia William Ruto, rudishie hiyo shamba, wataita Taveta. Arudishe shamba kwa nani? Wataita Taveta. Ama nasema hivi. Na mimi naomba Silvia na wengine msijali. Na viongozi wengine ambao ni ndugu zetu hapa wanasema, juzi walikuwa kwa majukwaa wakasema, shida yetu sio waziri wa ardhi. Ati kwa sababu Raila Odinga ametangaza mimi amenipendekeza. Ati shida yetu ni mipango. Nataka kuambia mipango haijipangi. Mipango yanapangwa. Na kupanga inahitaji watu. Na wengine wakasema, tumekuwa na mawaziri wa ardhi katika jimbo la Pwani zamani. Si jambo jipya. Nataka niwaambie hao mawaziri kweli walikuwa, lakini hawakuwa Hassan Ali Joho, my friend. Hawakuwa mimi. Wajua hiyo. Hawakuwa nani? Hawakuwa mimi. Mimi nia yangu ndio mimi nimekuja kuwapa hapa caution, tahadhari, kwamba msibebwe tu hivi hivi. Haiwezekani kwamba wewe asubuhi unaongea hivi, usiku unaongea vile. Anaitwa William Kingi, sivyo? William Kingi anaweza kuja kuambia, si mimi niko na deputy governor. Si niko na deputy governor. Anaitwa William Kingi, sivyo? William Kingi anaweza kuja kuambia maneno ambayo mimi nayapinga. Ama naweza kuzungumzia serikali hii. Nyinyi, can you delink me from William Kingi? Ati mimi nikisucceed, William Kingi has succeeded. If I fail, William Kingi has also failed. Sasa mimi nataka niwaulize honestly, kwa jina la Mwenyezi Mungu, na mweke Mungu wenu mbele, wale ambao wanazungumzia mambo ya William Ruto. William Ruto amekuwa rais, naibu wa rais kwa miaka 8, my friend. Hata kama hizo Wilbaro, mbona kuleta 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019 mpaka 2020? Hata kama semeni ukweli. Alafu utamtoa vipi katika mienendo mibaya ya serikali ya Jubilee? Utamtoa vipi? He is the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya as we see today. Wakifanya
time, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, we have a test on your capacity to hold office. Look at the lady Penina, told under Chapter 6 is higher than cases being in court and such like, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the threshold for approval in this House, we are not a court of law. In this House, we are approving you based on your capacity to hold office. Look at the lady Penina. She's being disapproved simply because she could not talk properly in the committee. And you are telling me that a name that has been brought here by none other than the president as having been mentioned in matters corruption, that person is as clean as cotton. Mr. Speaker, let us be serious. Even if, and I've never been in government except in 2008 to 2013 when I was in Nusumukati government. I have never been in government since that time, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, we have a choice to make either decision to reject over 60% of these names or give President Ruto his skunk. Let us not interfere with it. We give it to him. He has asked for it. Let us give him his cabinet. We know he's going to run the government from State House. These are not people who can run a government. Apart from a few individuals who are not even more than 8, the rest are incompetent, unqualified, have integrity issues, are people who cannot deliver this country from where it is to the next level that we want the country to move in. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I will oppose most of the names.
Your time is up.